Our story begins with a man who, after working himself to death at an internet cafe, is reborn as a national treasure, a tiger. Being a tiger isn't bad, no more studying. There are no exams, no jobs, and absolutely nothing to do. It is the ultimate life of leisure. In 2 years, he grew to 600 pounds, becoming the king of the safari park with over 30 subordinates under his command. The only downside is a short lifespan. If he could live to 100, he would happily spend a century being hand-fed. Life is truly comfortable. To prevent obesity, he even exercises occasionally. Suddenly, a little girl's voice drifts from the distance. "Mom, look how big that tiger is," she cries out. He wonders if she's talking about him, tilting his massive head toward the sound. Looking over, we see a black SUV with a window cracked open, revealing a small head. It really is a little girl, perhaps 5 years old. She has pigtails and a face full of youthful charm. Utterly adorable, really. Amused, our tiger friend decides to make a funny face at her. "Mom, the big tiger is so cute," she shouts in excitement. Hearing this, 2 of his subordinates move closer, seemingly curious about the vehicle. He lets out a low growl to keep them in line. It was just a small warning, really. The other passengers watch him with pure excitement. A sightseeing bus pulls up, and 20 people inside start cheering like children at the sight of him. "That tiger must weigh over 500 pounds. It's way bigger than the lions next door," someone remarks. A woman in her 40s asks which is stronger, a tiger or a lion. A young man in his 20s answers immediately, insisting the tiger is superior. "Just look at this big fellow. He could easily take down any lion." "Nonsense. How could a tiger ever beat a lion?" A young woman with a mole near her eye retorts. To be honest, she seems quite convinced of her opinion. The young man refuses to back down, pointing out the tiger's thick limbs, superior bone density, and a bite force that far exceeds any lion's. He argues a lion stands no chance. "Rubbish," she snaps back. "A male lion's neck is covered in a thick mane. This mustached dog wouldn't even get a grip." She claims he'd just end up with a mouthful of fur while the lion pins this mustached dog to the ground. It's a rather heated debate over a simple cat. The young woman speaks with utter disdain. Finally, the tour guide steps in to settle the argument, suggesting that perhaps the lion truly is the stronger of the 2. The guide tries to keep the peace, and the young man sits down, though he continues to mutter under his breath about how tigers are clearly superior. He grumbles that lions are practically canines compared to the tiger, which he considers the most perfectly evolved feline. The young woman simply watches him, unimpressed. The young woman smiles triumphantly now that the guide has taken her side, mocking the clumsy tiger for lacking the majesty of the neighboring lion king. Our tiger friend is offended. Calling him a mustache dog is a bit much when he could easily handle 80 such lions if he truly wanted to. But just as he's nursing his bruised ego, he senses something abnormal, a terrifying sound approaching, carrying a wave of cruel, violent bloodlust. He wonders what kind of creature could emit such malice as cars begin racing away, some even crashing into trees in their desperate hurry. The tourists on the bus look on in total confusion, though a deep, primal fear of the unknown begins to settle over the entire group. Suddenly, a white car speeds past the lingering vehicles, the driver screaming that a lion from the next enclosure has gone mad and broken into the tiger park. The young woman with the mole remains remarkably unbothered, claiming there's no need to fear a righteous lion while they are safe inside the bus. She turns back to the young man, taunting him to watch closely as the lion arrives to show him exactly how a real predator handles a mustached dog. She seems quite determined to win the argument, pointing her finger and focusing all her spite on the young man who dared to favor the tiger. The young man is speechless, though he can't help but wonder how a lion managed to breach the enclosure. And then, with a bone-chilling roar, it appears. We see a massive male lion, far larger than any normal specimen, boasting a strange, golden mane that seems unnaturally long and vibrant. Our tiger notices the sheer killing intent in the lion's cold eyes, a gaze so freezing it would make any ordinary creature tremble with fear. This beast easily weighs 600 pounds, matching our protagonist's size. He recognizes him as the neighboring king, a lion named Kala. But Kala's mane has changed, looking almost as if it has evolved into something else entirely. Something is wrong here, very wrong indeed. The young woman exclaims at how majestic the Lion King looks, certain that he is about to utterly crush the mustached dog before them. She is completely swept up in the spectacle, ignoring the very real danger standing just a few yards away. She snaps at the young man to stay back while she takes photos of her golden guardian Lion King, her excitement bordering on the obsessive. The young man, however, is growing anxious, silently praying that this terrifying beast doesn't decide to turn its attention toward their sightseeing bus. The woman continues to gush about how alpha the lion looks, convinced that a video of the upcoming fight will surely go viral online. Our tiger remains perfectly still, watching as Kala locks eyes with him, waiting for the inevitable moment the Lion King decides to strike. Kala seems provoked, suddenly abandoning his focus on our tiger friend to charge directly toward the sightseeing bus with terrifying speed. With a single, monstrous blow, he strikes the bus, shattering the glass and even causing the heavy protective bars to buckle inward. The girl who was just taking photos is now paralyzed with terror, collapsing into her seat as she screams for help that isn't coming. The other passengers are equally horrified. It's truly chilling to see a beast with enough raw power to dent reinforced steel bars. Fortunately, the bars hold for now, but Kala has descended into a total frenzy, relentlessly battering the side of the massive vehicle. The glass is completely gone and the metal panels are caving in, leaving dozens of passengers trembling and too terrified to move. Even the driver's legs have turned to jelly, desperate to survive. The young woman points toward a nearby black SUV, hoping to divert the beast. Kala's eyes remain cold and cruel as he actually listens, turning his murderous gaze away from the bus and toward the smaller vehicle. The young man sighs, realizing the woman has just passed the death sentence to the SUV's occupants. A cruel move, but she wasn't about to call the lion back. Inside the SUV, a family of 5 is trapped. The mother urges them to flee, her voice rising in panic as the lion approaches. The father is on the verge of tears, his hands shaking so violently that he repeatedly stalls the engine, falling deeper into despair. Unlike the bus, their private car has no protective bars. One strike from a beast this powerful would flatten the door like paper. Kala lunges at the black SUV, slamming his paw into the rear door with a deafening crash that shatters the window and crushes the frame. Then, using his razor-sharp claws like hooks, he forcibly tears the door right off its hinges, revealing the 3 terrified passengers in the back. A woman and 2 small children now sit face-to-face with the Lion King. It seems this beast possesses a disturbingly high level of intelligence. Our tiger realizes he can no longer remain a spectator. If he doesn't act, that mother and her children are surely doomed. With a thunderous roar of his own, he charges toward Kala, determined to save the humans from this unnaturally cruel predator. His speed is breathtaking, truly like a bolt of lightning. As the old saying goes, the wind follows the tiger, and the clouds follow the dragon. An invincible aura erupts from our protagonist, locking onto Kala just as the lion prepares to claim his prize. Infuriated by the interruption, Kala turns to face the challenge. The king of lions and the king of tigers are finally about to collide. That young woman seems to have found her excitement again, pulling out her phone to record the scene. Under the frantic gaze of the crowd, our tiger friend and the massive lion finally collide. The 2 behemoths crash into one another, rolling across the ground in a blur of fur and fury. Without a moment's pause, they launch into a series of savage attacks, neither willing to yield. In the chaos, our tiger manages to pierce one of Kala's eyes, though his own neck is badly clawed in return. Fortunately, the lion's teeth miss their mark, but the wound is still quite severe. He doesn't have time to wonder why Kala's claws are unnaturally long. Right now, he is driven by a pure instinct to survive. This opponent is incredibly powerful, a true equal in every sense. A single moment of distraction could mean ending up between the Lion King's massive jaws. From the SUV with the missing door, the little girl begins to cheer for the tiger with all her might. He tells himself he cannot lose to this overgrown stray. He needs to end this fight within 3 rounds. To be honest, killing Kala is now the only way to ensure everyone's safety. But something is wrong. We see that Kala's wounds are healing at an impossible speed, as if he's cheating the laws of nature. Our tiger gathers his strength, moving with sudden, explosive grace. Like a rabbit darting from a predator, he lunges toward Kala again, aiming specifically for the lion's remaining eye. Kala lets out a furious roar, his heart filled with a desperate need for vengeance. The lion wants to tear the tiger apart and consume him, sensing that doing so would make him even more powerful. And so, the second round of this brutal confrontation begins. Every spectator holds their breath, too terrified to even whisper as they watch this clash of kings. It is a terrifying spectacle, the Golden Lion King versus the Tiger King of the mountains. The sheer brutality of the scene leaves everyone paralyzed with shock. Even the tiger's subordinates begin to circle in, looking for an opening to help their leader take Kala down. In this second exchange, our tiger manages to open a long gash across Kala's face and leaves several deep furrows along the lion's back. It is a grim display of power, to say the least. However, he fails to take the other eye, and his own condition is worsening as his abdomen is slashed open. Kala is proving to be the most formidable lion to ever walk the earth. He is far beyond any wild lion found on the Great Plains, though he is now a one-eyed king. Kala glares at our protagonist with his remaining eye, a look of pure, unadulterated hatred. With one final, earth-shaking roar toward the sky, the lion turns and retreats into the distance. Our tiger simply licks his wounds, choosing not to give chase in his current state. In that last look from Kala, we see a disturbing mix of malice, resentment, and utter disbelief. It seems this Lion King possesses a level of intelligence that is truly frightening. Deep down, our tiger feels a flicker of worry that the lion will return even stronger to seek his revenge. He lies still on the ground, his body exhausted from the ordeal. Now, all he can do is wait for the zoo's medical team to arrive and stitch his wounds. Meanwhile, that same young woman has the nerve to complain, calling the tiger a dirty dog for attacking the lion's eye. The young man beside her is absolutely livid at her words. If it weren't for this tiger, the family in that black SUV would surely be dead by now, a fact she seems to ignore. And let's not forget, this entire tragedy started because she wanted a photo and then tried to lure the beast toward others. Some people, it seems, never learn their lesson. Now, that woman is even calling our tiger baby while recording everything, planning to post it online later. Meanwhile, in the black SUV, the little girl is watching. Seeing him bleeding, she is overcome with worry, asking if the big tiger is hurt. Hearing her voice, he tilts his head to look toward the child. He offers her a smile, a genuine, heartfelt expression. The little girl shouts in excitement, "Mom, the big tiger smiled at me." Suddenly, a notification appears. He has gained a true fan, and the invincible fortune system has activated. He is asked if he wants to claim a newbie gift pack. At first, he wonders if his mind is playing tricks on him, but after the voice repeats itself, he realizes he finally has a system of his own. Well, technically he is a tiger with a system, which is far more interesting. He claims the gift and receives a single drop of white tiger essence blood. It is stored and ready for use. He can't help but wonder if this essence comes from the legendary white tiger of ancient myths. The moment he claims it, a drop of blood appears in his heart, radiating an aura so powerful it makes him want to surrender to its majesty. He feels that if this drop were released, it could practically destroy the world. To be honest, that is quite a terrifying gift for a beginner. However, the system detects he is currently too weak to digest it. It promptly takes the essence back, storing it until he becomes stronger. As the pressure leaves his heart, he breathes a sigh of relief, but then realizes his only newbie reward is now locked away. He grumbles internally about the system, giving him things he can't use and demands something practical. The system tells him to earn fortune for the lottery. Currently, he has one chance at a black iron treasure chest. He is a bit confused, wondering exactly how one goes about obtaining this fortune. The system explains, gaining a true fan or receiving 100 likes will grant him a chance to draw from the black iron chest. He realizes his first fan is the little girl, Zhou Xiaoming. He tells himself he must find a way to thank her for activating his system later. He decides to use his draw and, to his delight, wins a pound of spirit food, which is immediately stored for his convenience. He is thrilled to have obtained such a legendary resource. He wonders if consuming it will make him stronger and asks how to absorb its energy. The system tells him to simply eat it. Deciding to be cautious, he opts to consume only a small portion first, just in case it upsets his stomach. A small piece of the spirit resource appears directly in his stomach. It's a nice touch, really, saving him the trouble of having to chew it first. Almost immediately, a warm current flows from his stomach to his entire body. His torn wounds begin to heal, and his very bones start to absorb the power. The warm current makes him feel significantly stronger, but after only a few seconds, the sensation fades. He decides to claim the rest of the snacks, and once again, his stomach fills up. It feels like a heavy stone is sitting in his gut, but the resulting energy is 9 times stronger than before. He feels a cozy warmth spreading, sensing his strength has increased by at least 1%. 1% might not sound like much, but it's a start, growing stronger just by lying there. Only a few minutes have passed since the system activated, and he claimed his snacks. However, in those few minutes, the safari park's rescue vehicles have finally arrived. In fact, the park security had noticed the mutation of the Lion King, Kara, almost immediately. They had rushed to the lion enclosure, but they never expected Kara to be so fierce. The mutated lion had actually flipped their vehicle over before vanishing into the brush. After searching everywhere, they finally spotted Kara entering the tiger enclosure on the security monitors. Naturally, they raced over as fast as they could. We see the terrified tourists shouting in relief as the guards arrive. For many of them, this was the first time they had ever felt the cold breath of death so close. "Kill that tiger. He was about to eat us," the woman screams at the guards. To be honest, her gratitude for being saved seems to have vanished entirely. Hearing the tourists claim a tiger is eating people, the guards grow tense. If a tiger actually kills a guest, the park will be held responsible for the catastrophe. A man-eating tiger must be put down, though that's a decision for the higher-ups. For now, a guard raises his tranquilizer rifle and takes aim at our tiger. "Don't kill him. That tiger saved us," a young man shouts back at the guards. He urges them to ask the family who was actually in the path of the lion. The guard feels a headache coming on. One person says the tiger is a killer, another says he's a hero. It's a confusing situation, to say the least. "Mister, the big tiger saved us. He chased the lion away," little Zhou Xiaoming cries out. And she wasn't the only one who saw the truth. Her father joins in, explaining that without this tiger, their whole family would be dead. He tells them to find the lion and to please help the injured tiger. The guard nods, promising to tranquilize the tiger first so the medical team can safely treat his wounds. It seems like a reasonable plan under the circumstances. A shot rings out, and a tranquilizer dart hits him right in the hip. He didn't even try to dodge. Otherwise, the guard would have never stood a chance of hitting him. The sedative has almost no effect on his enhanced body, but to avoid being shot again, he decides to play along and fakes a collapse. It's a convincing performance. He makes a mental note of the woman who wanted him dead. He considers himself a reasonable tiger, but he has very little patience for those who seek his life. 2 park veterinarians arrive, looking quite startled by the tiger's size. The security captain, Lu Ming, reassures them that the beast is safely sedated. Captain Lu speaks with absolute confidence, certain the tiger won't move. The medical team nods and prepares to begin treating the great cat's injuries. The two veterinarians force themselves to step forward, though we can see their legs are visibly shaking. This tiger is massive, 3 meters long from head to tail. If you include the tail, he measures a full 4 meters. Even though he appears to be sleeping, no one can help but feel a primal sense of fear. We return to his past, where after dying from overwork in an internet cafe, he was reborn as a national treasure. Being a tiger isn't so bad, no studying or exams. He doesn't even have to work. In 2 years of doing absolutely nothing, he grew to 600 pounds and became the undisputed king of the safari park. He even has 30 subordinates under his command. His only complaint is that a tiger's lifespan is too short. He'd happily spend 100 years just lying around. A life where food is simply brought to you is quite comfortable. To prevent himself from getting too soft, however, he does make sure to exercise occasionally. "Mom, look at that big tiger," a little girl's voice calls out from a distance. He tilts his massive head toward the sound, wondering if she's talking about him. A black SUV has its window rolled down halfway, revealing the small head of a girl who looks to be about 5 years old. With her hair in pigtails and a face full of youthful energy, she is quite adorable. He even makes a funny face at her, prompting her to shout that he's cute. Hearing the girl's excitement, 2 of his subordinates start moving toward the vehicle with interest. He lets out a low growl to tell them to stay back. The SUV draws closer, finally stopping about 20 meters away. The little girl continues to shout with joy at the sight of the big tiger. He gives a subtle tiger smile, stands up, and stretches his limbs. It isn't just the little girl who is impressed by his sheer size anymore. The other passengers are watching him with equal excitement. When a sightseeing bus pulls up, 20 more people start cheering like children. They estimate he weighs over 500 pounds, noting he's much larger than the lions next door. Naturally, the age-old debate begins to stir. A woman in her 40s asks which is stronger, a lion or a tiger. A young man nearby immediately insists that the tiger is the superior predator. He claims this big guy could easily take down any lion, but a young woman with a beauty mark near her eye quickly disagrees. The young man won't back down, pointing out the tiger's thick limbs and explaining that their bone density is far superior to that of a lion. He argues that a lion couldn't possibly stand a chance against his bite force. Nonsense, the woman retorts, claiming the lion's mane is a perfect shield. She argues that the tiger would only get a mouthful of fur, while the lion would easily pin this overgrown cat to the ground. The young woman looks at the man with pure disdain. Eventually, someone tells them to stop arguing, though they still insist the lion would win. As the debate over whether lions or tigers are superior heats up, the tour guide quickly steps in to play peacemaker, and the young man finally sits down, still muttering under his breath. He remains convinced that a lion is no match for a tiger in any category, arguing that lions are practically oversized dogs while tigers are the most perfectly evolved felines. Seeing the guide take her side, the young woman smiles triumphantly, mocking the clumsy tiger before them and claiming he lacks the majesty of the neighboring Lion King. Our protagonist, meanwhile, is deeply offended by being called a mustache dog. After all, he is the king of tigers and could handle a few lions with ease. But just as he is nursing his wounded pride, he suddenly senses something abnormal, a terrifying sound approaching from the distance, carrying a wave of violent, bloodthirsty intent. He wonders what kind of creature could possess such malice as we see several vehicles suddenly racing toward them, with one even crashing directly into a tree in its panic. The tourists on the sightseeing bus look on in total confusion, unaware of what is happening, but feeling a deep, instinctive dread of the unknown. Suddenly, a driver in a white sedan screams a warning to the lingering cars that a massive male lion from the neighboring enclosure has gone mad and broken into the tiger park. The man then speeds away, but the young woman who mocked the tiger earlier remains unfazed, foolishly claiming that lions are noble and won't attack people in cars. She even turns to the young man to taunt him further, telling him to watch closely as the lion arrives to show him how a real predator handles a mustache dog. The young woman with the beauty mark leans out, eager to witness the spectacle she's been bragging about. And then, the beast finally appears. It is a male lion with a long, golden mane, but its eyes are filled with a terrifying, cold, murderous intent that makes everyone's blood run cold. Our tiger notes that this lion is massive, weighing at least 600 pounds, easily his equal in size. He recognizes him as the neighboring king, a lion named Kala. However, something is wrong with Kala. His mane seems to have shifted and changed as if he has undergone some sort of dark evolution. This is a serious problem, though the young woman is too busy admiring the lion's majesty to realize the danger, still insisting he will crush the tigers. She ignores the growing tension and begins snapping photos of the lion with her phone, while the young man stares into the lion's icy eyes and feels a chill of genuine fear. The young man tries to stop her, but she snaps back, telling him to mind his own business and go take pictures of his mustache dog, while she admires her golden Lion King. She continues her photo shoot despite the young man's growing anxiety, as he silently prays that this terrifying creature doesn't decide to target their vehicle. On the sightseeing bus, the other tourists are also caught up in the excitement, urging everyone to take photos of the boss lion who looks ready to dominate the tigers. She tells herself that if she can just record this, the footage will be legendary. Abandoning any interest in our tiger for now, the Lion King, Kala, sprints toward the sightseeing bus in a few blurred breaths and delivers a terrifying, heavy blow. He shatters the bus window instantly, and the force is so immense that the protective metal bars are actually dented inward as people inside begin to scream for help. The girl who was just taking photos is instantly reduced to tears by Kala's aggression, collapsing into her seat and wailing while the others are paralyzed by the lion's movements. The scene is truly horrific. The fact that he dented the safety bars is a testament to his unnatural strength. It's a miracle they didn't snap entirely, or things would be much worse. Seeing that the bars held, Kala descends into a total frenzy, relentlessly battering the massive bus until every pane of glass is destroyed and the metal plating itself begins to buckle. Dozens of passengers are left trembling, too terrified to even flinch, while the driver's legs have turned to jelly. He desperately tries to find a way to escape. The young woman, shaking uncontrollably, points toward a black SUV nearby, hoping to divert the beast's attention. Kala's eyes remain cold, filled with a cruel, murderous intent. He abandons the sightseeing bus and turns his gaze toward the smaller vehicle. The young man sighs helplessly, realizing she is essentially throwing the people in that SUV to the wolves. The occupants of that black SUV are now in mortal danger, but the woman feels she has no choice. She certainly isn't going to draw the lion back to herself. Inside, we see a family of 5. The little girl's mother urges them to move quickly as the lion approaches, while the father is so panicked he's on the verge of tears, his hands shaking as he tries to start the engine. But the engine stalls again and again, driving them toward total despair. Unlike the bus, their private car has no protective bars to withstand the lion's raw power. With a single swipe, Kala could flatten a car door. He lunges at the black SUV, slamming his massive paw into the rear left door with a deafening crash. The window shatters, and the door crumples like paper. Then, using his razor-sharp claws like hooks, Kala begins to forcibly tear the door right off its hinges. We see 3 people in the back seat, 2 children and a woman in her 30s, who are now suddenly and terrifyingly face-to-face with the Lion King. The sheer terror in their eyes is palpable. This lion's intelligence is unervingly high, as he clearly understands how to use his claws to pry the vehicle open. Our tiger realizes he can no longer remain a mere spectator, or the girl and her family are doomed. With a thunderous roar, he charges directly toward Kala. No matter the risk, he cannot simply watch this happen. Kala, who was just preparing for a feast, hears the roar behind him and is instantly enraged. The Lion King turns his head and begins to sprint toward our protagonist. The King of Lions and the King of Tigers are about to collide. Seeing this, the young woman gets excited again, pulling out her phone to film the golden lion crushing the mustache dog. As the cameras roll and the crowd watches with bated breath, our tiger and the lion collide. 2 massive titans slamming into one another with terrifying force. They tumble across the ground, never pausing for a second as they strike at each other. In the chaos, he manages to pierce Kala's eyeball directly. But the victory comes at a price, as Kala's claws tear into our tiger's neck. Fortunately, the lion's teeth miss their mark, and there is no time to wonder why Kala's claws are so unnaturally long. In this moment, he is driven by a singular instinct to kill. His opponent is incredibly powerful, is equal in every way, and a single moment of distraction could mean death beneath the lion's jaws. From the SUV that just lost its door, the little girl screams out, cheering for the big tiger to keep going. It is a small voice in a very loud storm. He tells himself he cannot lose to this overgrown poodle. He needs to end this fight and kill the Lion King within 3 rounds. But then, he notices something strange. Kala isn't acting normally. His wounds are healing, and he seems to be growing stronger, almost as if he's cheating. Moving like a rabbit in flight, our tiger lunges again. His target is Kala's remaining eye. The Lion King roars in a blind fury, desperate for revenge and determined to tear this tiger apart and feast on his remains. Kala can sense that devouring this tiger will make him even more powerful. And so, the second exchange begins, leaving everyone watching with their hearts in their throats. No one dares to even breathe as they witness this horrific battle between the Golden Lion and the King of Tigers. It is a clash of legends. The sheer brutality of the scene leaves everyone paralyzed with shock. Even our tiger's subordinates have gathered, waiting for a chance to strike at Kala as the second round concludes. He manages to slash a long gash across Kala's face and leaves deep bloody furrows across the lion's back. However, he fails to take the other eye. Our tiger is also in bad shape, his abdomen torn open by the lion's counterattack. To be honest, Kala is easily the most formidable lion to ever walk the earth. He far surpasses any wild king of the savannah. Now, with one eye gone, Kala has become a one-eyed demon, his remaining terrifying eye fixed intently on our protagonist. The lion stares him down with a gaze that promises a future of blood and retribution. Worried that the lion will only grow stronger and return for revenge, he lies motionless on the ground. For now, he must wait for the zoo's medical staff to arrive and stitch his wounds. Meanwhile, that young woman is actually cursing, calling the tiger a dirty coward for attacking the lion's eyes, which, naturally, is an absurd thing to say in a life-or-death struggle. The young man beside her is furious. After all, if not for this tiger, the family in that black SUV would surely be dead by now. He knows the truth of the situation. This entire disaster was caused by her photography and her decision to lure the lion toward the SUV, yet she still has the nerve to insult the tiger. It's quite a display of character. The young man has recorded everything and plans to post it online. Nearby, the little girl in the SUV watches our tiger bleed, her heart breaking for her savior. The little girl calls out to our tiger, asking if he is hurt. Hearing her voice, he tilts his head toward her and offers a genuine, heartfelt smile. Seeing this, the girl excitedly shouts to her mother that the big tiger smiled at her. And here, we see him gain his first true devoted fan. Suddenly, an invincible chi system activates, asking if he wants to claim a newbie gift pack. At first, he wonders if he's finally lost his mind. After the voice repeats itself, he realizes the truth. He is now a tiger with his very own system. To be honest, he is absolutely delighted by this. He claims the gift pack immediately. The system rewards him with a single drop of white tiger essence blood, which is stored and ready for use. He can't wait to use it, wondering if this blood comes from the legendary white tiger of myth. The moment he claims it, the transformation begins. A drop of blood appears at his heart, radiating an aura so powerful he feels an instinctive urge to surrender to its ancient, overwhelming strength. He senses that if this essence were released, it could practically destroy the world. It is a terrifyingly powerful gift, even for a system starter pack. However, the system detects that he is currently too weak to digest such power. It promptly withdraws the blood to be stored until he grows stronger. As the essence vanishes from his heart, he breathes a sigh of relief, though he's annoyed that his only useful prize was just taken back. Typical, really. He demands something he can actually use, and the system explains he needs chi points for a lucky draw. Currently, he has 1 black iron chess credit. Confused, he asks how to earn this chi. The system explains that gaining a true fan or reaching certain milestones will grant him more chances. For instance, gaining 100 likes would earn him another draw. He realizes that his first true fan must be that brave little girl from the SUV. Her name is Zhou Xiaoming, and he vows to thank her later for activating his system. For now, he decides to use his draw and wins a pound of spirit food. He is overjoyed to have obtained this legendary nourishment. He wonders if absorbing this spirit food will finally allow him to become truly powerful. When he asks how to absorb the energy within, the system tells him he can simply consume it directly. A straightforward solution, to say the least. He decides to start small, claiming just a fraction of the food to avoid upsetting his stomach. Instantly, the nourishment appears directly inside him. A small, stone-like piece of spirit food manifests in his stomach. It's convenient, really, saving him the trouble of having to chew and swallow it. Soon, a warm current flows from his stomach through his entire body. His torn wounds begin to heal, and his bones grow noticeably stronger and denser. The sensation only lasts a few seconds before fading, so he decides to claim the rest. A much larger piece appears, making him feel quite full. This portion is 9 times larger than the last, filling him with a cozy warmth. His strength has increased by at least 1%, not bad at all for just lying around. Only a few minutes have passed since his system activated, and he claimed his snacks. However, in those few minutes, the wildlife park's rescue vehicle has finally arrived. As it turns out, the park security noticed the mutation of the Lion King, Kala, immediately. They had rushed to the lion enclosure at the first sign of trouble. But they had no idea just how fierce Kala had become. The lion actually flipped their vehicle before vanishing. Left with no choice, they began searching everywhere. Finally, the security team spotted Kala entering the tiger enclosure on the monitors and raced over. The guards are here. They're finally here. Some of the tourists cry out. The drivers, who had been holding their breath in terror, shout with excitement. They truly felt they were at death's door, and it was the closest they had ever been. Kill that tiger. He was just about to eat someone. The young woman screams at the guards. Hearing the tourists on the bus shouting about a man-eater, the guards tense up. If a tiger really eats a guest, the park will be held responsible. In such a case, a man-eating tiger would have to be put down, no matter what. Of course, that's a decision for the higher-ups. For now, a guard raises his tranquilizer rifle and aims it at our tiger. Don't kill him. That tiger saved people. He saved that family from the lion. If you don't believe me, ask them, the young man shouts. The guards find themselves with a massive headache, to say the least. The woman says the tiger is a man-eater, while the man says he's a hero. It's a confusing situation. Uncle, the big tiger saved us. Little 5-year-old Zhou Xiaoming cries out. He chased the lion away and rescued us, she adds. Her father agrees, telling the guards that without this tiger, their whole family would be dead by now. You need to kill that lion quickly, and this tiger is hurt. You must treat him, Xiaoming's father shouts, urgently explaining the events that just unfolded. The guard nods, telling them not to worry. He decides to tranquilize the tiger first so the medical staff can take a look. With that, he fires a shot. The dart hits our tiger right in the backside. This time, he doesn't dodge. Otherwise, the guard wouldn't have stood a chance of hitting him. The sedative actually does nothing to him. However, to avoid being shot again, he decides to play along and pretend to faint. He makes a mental note of the woman who wanted him dead. Let's hope she doesn't regret that. He tells himself he's usually easygoing, but he has no mercy for those who want his life. Soon, two medical professionals from the wildlife park arrive on the scene. When they see the size of our tiger, they are visibly startled. "It's okay, we've already tranquilized him. He won't move," the security captain, Lu Ming, says confidently. "All right, I'll begin the treatment now," one doctor says, though they both have to steel themselves as they approach. To be honest, they are still quite terrified. Their legs are literally shaking. This tiger is massive, 3 meters from head to rump, and if you count the tail, he's a full 4 meters long. Even though he appears to be fast asleep, no one is without fear. As the saying goes, even the toughest fighter can't beat a beast with natural stripes. Our story actually began when he died from exhaustion at an internet cafe and was reborn as a national treasure, a tiger. Being a tiger turned out to be quite a pleasant change of pace. No studying, no exams, and certainly no job. He didn't have to do anything at all. It was the ultimate lying flat lifestyle, really. In just 2 years, he grew to a staggering 600 pounds, becoming the undisputed king of the wildlife park with over 30 subordinates under his command. To be honest, the only downside was the short lifespan. He told himself that if he could live to 100, he'd happily spend every year just lounging around. Having food delivered right to his mouth was simply too comfortable for words. To prevent himself from becoming too sedentary, he made sure to exercise his massive body regularly. "Mom, look, that big tiger is huge," a little girl's voice suddenly called out from the distance. He wondered if she was talking about him. Tilting his massive head, he looked toward the sound and saw a black off-road vehicle with its window rolled down. Just halfway, a small head was peeking out, a little girl, about 5 years old, with her hair in 2 cute pigtails and a face full of youthful innocence. She was quite adorable. Our tiger decided to be playful and made a funny face at her. "Mom, the big tiger is so cute," the little girl shouted with pure excitement. Hearing this, 2 of his subordinates began to move, seemingly curious about the vehicle. He let out a low growl, telling his followers not to cause trouble. As the off-road vehicle drew closer, it finally came to a stop about 20 meters away. Big tiger, the little girl cheered. He gave a subtle, feline smile and stood up from the ground to give himself a long, lazy stretch. That tiger is massive. It wasn't just the little girl anymore. Everyone else in the vehicle was watching him with wide-eyed excitement. A sightseeing bus pulled up next, and the 20 or so people inside began shouting with the enthusiasm of small children. "That tiger must weigh over 500 pounds, one man exclaimed. "Good grief, he's much bigger than the lions next door. Which do you think is stronger, a tiger or a lion?" a female tourist in her 40s suddenly asked, sparking a lively debate. A young man in his 20s answered immediately, "The tiger, obviously. Look at this big guy. He could easily take down any lion from the neighboring enclosure." "Nonsense. How could a tiger ever be a match for a lion?" a young woman with a mole near her eye retorted. The young man wasn't about to back down and replied instantly, "Just look at the thickness of those limbs. Besides, a tiger's bone density and bite force both exceed a lion's. There's no way a lion could be a match for this specific tiger." "Ridiculous," she snapped back. "A male lion's neck is covered in a thick mane. This overgrown house cat wouldn't be able to get a grip, even with a strong bite. He'd just end up with a mouthful of fur while the lion pins him to the dirt," the young woman added with a look of pure disdain. All right, let's not argue. As for which is stronger, I personally think the lion takes the crown," the tour guide said, trying to keep the peace among the passengers. The young man sat back down, looking quite annoyed, and muttered under his breath that there was no way a lion was stronger. In his mind, the lion was inferior in every possible way, and yet, the young man argued that tigers are the most perfectly evolved felines, but the young woman simply smirked when the guide took her side. She called our protagonist a clumsy tiger and claimed he lacked the majesty of the Lion King next door. "A bearded dog," she called him. He took offense, thinking he could handle 80 billion bearded dogs, but suddenly, he sensed something terrifying approaching from the distance. A wave of murderous, violent energy washed over him. He wondered what kind of creature it was as cars began racing toward them in a panic. One car even slammed into a tree. The tourists on the bus watched in confusion, their hearts filling with an inexplicable, primal dread. Suddenly, a white sedan sped past, the driver screaming that a massive lion from the neighboring enclosure had gone mad and broken into the tiger park. The driver urged everyone to flee, but the young woman with the mole remained stubborn. She wondered why they should fear a lion while inside a car. To her, lions were symbols of justice that didn't bite people. She turned to the young man, mocking his earlier claims about tiger superiority. She told him to watch closely as the lion arrived to show him how a real predator handles a bearded dog. The young woman with the mole waited with anticipation. And then, we see it. The intruder finally appeared. It was a golden lion, but something about it was deeply wrong. Its mane was unnaturally long and vibrant. Our tiger saw a cold, murderous intent in the lion's eyes that made his own blood run cold. This beast was massive, easily weighing 600 pounds, matching our protagonist's own staggering size. He recognized this intruder immediately. It was the king of the neighboring lion park, a beast known by the name Kara. But Kara's mane had changed, looking almost as if it had evolved. There was a problem here, a very big problem. Yet, the young woman only saw majesty, convinced that Kara would easily crush the bearded dogs. She couldn't help herself and pulled out her phone to take photos of the magnificent beast. The young man, however, saw the lion's icy gaze and felt a chill. "Stop taking pictures," the young man urged, sensing the danger. But the woman snapped back, telling him to mind his own business and go watch his tiger. She called the lion her golden guardian king and continued snapping photos. The young man grew increasingly anxious, hoping the beast wouldn't notice them. On the sightseeing bus, the excitement was contagious. Everyone began reaching for their cameras, captivated by the lion's sheer presence and power. The woman excitedly claimed that a video of the lion dominating the tigers would surely go viral. Meanwhile, our tiger remained perfectly still. He waited for Kara to make the first move. He knew that in this world, the rules of the wild were about to be rewritten in blood. Kara, the Lion King, fixed his icy gaze directly on our protagonist. But just as the tiger prepared for a clash, Kara suddenly pivoted toward the tourist bus. Abandoning the fight with our tiger, the lion reached the bus in just a few breaths. With a terrifying roar, he slammed a massive paw against the vehicle. The glass shattered instantly under that monstrous strength, and even the heavy protective bars began to buckle and bend inward. Panic erupted as people screamed for help. The young woman who had been so busy taking photos was now paralyzed with terror, collapsing into her seat and wailing as the predator loomed over them. The other passengers were equally stunned by the lion's raw power. It was terrifying to see those steel bars dented so easily, a truly desperate situation. Seeing that the bars hadn't fully broken yet, Kara flew into a complete frenzy, relentlessly battering the side of the massive bus until the windows were gone. The metal plating groaned and collapsed under the assault. Dozens of passengers huddled together, trembling, while the driver found his legs had turned to jelly. Desperate to survive, the woman pointed a shaking finger toward a black SUV nearby, hoping the beast would find a new target. Kara's eyes remained cold and cruel. The lion actually listened, turning his murderous attention away from the bus and toward the smaller vehicle. The young man sighed, realizing the danger had simply shifted. The people in that black SUV were now in mortal peril. There were 5 passengers inside, and they had no protective bars to shield them from the beast. Inside the car, a mother urged her husband to drive away quickly as the lion approached. The father, nearly in tears from the pressure, struggled with the keys. But the engine stalled again and again, driving them to the brink of despair. Unlike the bus, their private car offered almost no defense against such a monster. With Kara's strength, a single blow could flatten a car door. The Lion King charged the black SUV and slammed his paw into the rear left door. A deafening bang echoed as the window shattered and the metal buckled. Then, using his razor-sharp claws like hooks, Kara began to pull. He forcibly ripped the door right off its hinges. In the back seat, we see 3 terrified people, a woman in her 30s and 2 small children. They were now face-to-face with the Lion King. This beast possessed a frightening level of intelligence, knowing exactly how to dismantle a vehicle to get to his prey. Our protagonist realized he could no longer just watch, or the family would be slaughtered. With a thunderous roar, he charged toward Kara at full speed. He was determined to save them, regardless of the cost. Kara might have been smart, but he was a cruel predator who didn't care who he killed. The tiger moved with incredible speed, like a bolt of lightning. An invincible aura radiated from him as he closed the distance, focusing all his might on the lion. Kara was just about to enjoy his meal when he heard the roar behind him. Infuriated by the interruption, the Lion King turned to face his challenger. The Lion King and the Tiger King were about to collide head-on. "Quick, take a photo. The lion is beating that bearded dog," the young woman shouted, once again filled with excitement. As she pulled out her phone to record, we see the 2 massive beasts crash into each other under the frantic gaze of the crowd. The impact of these 2 giants was truly staggering. They tumbled across the ground, but without a moment's pause, they resumed their fierce assault. Our tiger lunged forward, managed to strike, and pierced one of Kara's eyes. In exchange, Kara's claws tore into the tiger's neck. Fortunately, the bite missed. He didn't have time to wonder why Kara's claws were so unnaturally long, which was probably for the best. At this moment, he was driven only by the urge to kill. His opponent's strength was immense, perfectly matching his own. A single second of distraction could mean death beneath those jaws. "Go, big tiger, go!" a little girl cried out from the black SUV, despite the vehicle missing a door. It was a small voice in a very large, very dangerous world. He knew he couldn't lose to this bearded dog. He aimed to end the fight within 3 rounds and finish Kara for good. But then, he sensed something deeply wrong with the Lion King. Kara's wounds were healing, and he was growing stronger, almost as if he were cheating. Our tiger moved like a bolt of lightning, pouncing toward Kara with sudden, explosive speed. His target was Kara's remaining eye. The Lion King let out a furious roar. He wanted revenge. He wanted to tear this tiger apart and devour him where he stood. Kara could feel it. If he ate this tiger, he would become even more powerful. As the second exchange began, everyone watching held their breath, their hearts in their throats. Imagine the scene. A terrifying golden Lion King and the Tiger King locked in a struggle for survival. It was a clash of titans that defied everything we know about nature. The sheer brutality of the scene stunned every witness. Even the tiger's subordinates began to close in, looking for an opening to strike at Kara. The second round had reached its peak. Our tiger managed to slash a long gash across Kara's face and left deep, bloody furrows across the lion's back. However, he failed to take out the lion's other eye. His own condition was worsening, as his abdomen had been badly torn. Kara was undoubtedly the most formidable lion he had ever faced, far beyond any wild king of the savannah. Now a one-eyed king, Kara fixed his remaining, terrifying eye on our protagonist. It was a gaze filled with a cold, calculated hatred that felt almost human. With a final, furious roar toward the sky, the lion turned and fled. Our tiger licked his wounds and chose not to pursue. He had seen something unsettling in that single eye. There was malice, resentment, and a shocking level of disbelief. Kara possessed a high level of intelligence, and that, to be honest, was the most dangerous thing about him. He worried that the lion would return even stronger to seek revenge. For now, he lay motionless on the ground, waiting for the zoo's medical team to arrive and stitch his wounds. That bearded dog is so cheap, attacking the lion's eye, the young woman cursed angrily. To her, this was apparently just a show that hadn't gone her way. The young man beside her was incensed by her words. That lion was going to eat people. If not for this tiger, the family in that black SUV would surely be dead. And all of this had happened because this girl, while trying to take photos, had lured the lion toward the black SUV, and now she was calling our tiger a bearded dog. She had already recorded everything, planning to post it online later. Meanwhile, from the black SUV, the little girl watched our tiger bleeding with deep concern. "Big tiger, are you hurt?" she asked softly. Hearing her voice, he turned his head toward the little girl and offered her a smile, a genuine, heartfelt smile. The big tiger smiled. "Mama," the big tiger smiled. The little girl shouted in excitement. Suddenly, a notification appeared. "Congratulations to the host for gaining a true fan." The Invincible Cheese system had activated, asking if he wanted to claim his newbie gift pack. For a moment, he wondered if he was hallucinating, which, to be honest, would be understandable. The voice repeated itself several times before he finally confirmed it was real. He was overjoyed. He wasn't just a tiger anymore. He was a tiger with a system. He claimed the newbie gift pack immediately. The system congratulated him, rewarding him with a single drop of white tiger essence blood, stored and ready for use at any time. "Claim it," he said, unable to wait. He wondered if this essence blood came from the legendary white tiger of ancient myths, a creature of unimaginable power. The moment he claimed it, a drop of blood appeared at his heart. The aura it radiated was so overwhelming that he felt an instinctive urge to surrender to its majesty. He felt that if this drop of white tiger essence blood were released, it could practically destroy the world. It was a terrifyingly powerful gift for a beginner. However, the system detected that the host was currently too weak to digest it. It promptly withdrew the essence blood for storage until he grew strong enough to handle it. As the blood vanished from his heart, he breathed a sigh of relief, but then realized his gift was gone. He cursed the system for giving him something he couldn't even use yet. He demanded something practical instead. The system informed him that he needed to earn chi for draws, noting he currently had one chance at a black iron treasure chest. Confused, he asked how to obtain this chi. The system explained that gaining a true fan or receiving 100 likes would grant him a draw from the chest. He realized that his first true fan must be that little girl. Her name was Zhou Xiaoming, and he made a mental note to remember her for helping him activate this power. He decided to use his draw immediately. He told himself it was time to see just how lucky a tiger could be in this strange new world. The system announced the result. The host had drawn 1 pound of spirit food, which was immediately placed into his storage. It was safely stored away, waiting for him to decide when he was hungry enough to try this mysterious reward. He decided to claim just a small portion first, fearing it might upset his stomach. Suddenly, a small, stone-like morsel appeared directly inside his stomach. It had bypassed his mouth entirely, which was convenient, as it saved him the trouble of chewing. Soon, he felt a warm current flowing from his stomach toward his entire body. The warmth flowed through him, mending his torn wounds and strengthening his bones as they absorbed the energy. However, after only a few seconds, that soothing current vanished. He decided to claim all the remaining snacks. Immediately, a large, stone-like mass appeared in his stomach, feeling heavy but radiating 9 times the warmth. He felt a cozy heat spreading, estimating his strength had increased by at least 1%. It wasn't bad at all, getting stronger just by lying there. But while he was activating systems and eating snacks, only a few minutes had passed. In that short time, the safari park's rescue vehicle finally arrived on the scene. In truth, ever since the Lion King, Kala, had undergone his mutation, the park security had been on high alert and rushed to the lion enclosure immediately. They hadn't expected Kala to be so ferocious. The lion had actually overturned a vehicle before vanishing. After searching everywhere, they finally spotted him on the monitors entering the tiger enclosure, and they raced over. "Security is here. They're finally here," shouted some of the terrified drivers. They were shouting with pure relief, having just felt the cold breath of death for the first time. "Security, kill that tiger. Kill it now." The girl from before screamed at the guards, claiming he was about to eat someone. Hearing the tourists' frantic cries, the guards grew visibly tense. If a tiger truly turned man-eater, the park would be held responsible, and such a beast would have to be put down. Still, that was a decision for the higher-ups. For now, a guard simply raised his tranquilizer rifle and aimed it at our tiger. "Don't shoot. That tiger is a hero," a young man shouted, explaining that the tiger had saved a family from the lion. The guards felt their heads spinning. The girl said he was a killer, while the boy said he was a savior. What was the truth? "Mister, the big tiger saved us. He chased the lion away," little 5-year-old Zhou Xiaoming cried out. Her father joined in, shouting that they would be dead if not for the tiger, and urged them to find the lion instead. He also pointed out that our tiger was injured and needed medical attention immediately, recounting the incredible events that had just unfolded. Our tiger knew a tranquilizer wouldn't really affect him now, but to avoid being shot again, he decided to play along and pretend to faint. He made a mental note of the woman who wanted him dead, hoping she wouldn't meet her end too quickly. He was usually easygoing, but this was personal. 2 park veterinarians arrived, looking absolutely terrified when they saw his massive size. "It's okay, we've already tranquilized him," the security Captain Lu Ming said with total confidence. "He won't move." Reluctantly, the 2 doctors steeled themselves and approached this sleeping beast. Their legs were shaking visibly. The tiger was simply enormous, measuring 3 meters from head to tail. And if they added the length of his tail, with his tail included, he measured a full 4 meters. Even in his slumber, no one dared to approach. As the saying goes, even the toughest fighter fears a beast with stripes. We return to the beginning, where after a sudden death in an internet cafe, he was reborn as a national treasure, a tiger. Being a tiger wasn't bad at all. No exams, no work, and no responsibilities. It was the ultimate life of leisure. In 2 years, he had grown to 600 pounds, becoming the king of the safari park with over 30 subordinates under his command. His only complaint was the short lifespan. If he could live to 100, he'd happily spend a century being hand-fed. Life, to be perfectly honest, was far too comfortable. To prevent himself from becoming truly obese, he exercised regularly. Suddenly, a child's voice drifted from the distance. "Mom, look, that big tiger is huge." He wondered if she was talking about him. Tilting his massive head, he looked toward the sound and saw a black SUV with its window cracked open just a bit. A small head peeked out, a little girl, about 5 years old, with her hair tied in 2 adorable pigtails. She was, quite frankly, the picture of innocence. Our tiger decided to be playful and made a funny face at her. "Mom, the big tiger is so cute," the little girl shouted with pure excitement. Hearing this, 2 of his subordinates moved forward, seemingly interested in the SUV. He let out a low growl, signaling his followers to stay back and not interfere. The SUV drew closer, finally stopping about 20 meters away. Big tiger, the little girl continued to cheer with delight. He gave a subtle smile, standing up from the grass to give a long, lazy stretch. "That tiger is enormous." And it wasn't just the little girl noticing now. The other passengers watched him with equal fascination. A sightseeing bus pulled up nearby, and 20 people inside began shouting with the excitement of small children. They estimated he weighed over 500 pounds, noting he was much larger than the lions next door. "Who do you think is stronger, a tiger or a lion?" A female tourist in her 50s suddenly asked the question. A young man in his 20s immediately replied that the tiger was clearly superior, given its massive size. He argued this big guy could easily take down any lion. "Nonsense. A tiger is no match for a lion." A young woman with a mole near her, I countered sharply. The young man wouldn't back down, pointing out the tiger's thick limbs, superior bone density, and a bite force that far exceeded any lion's capabilities. He insisted a lion stood no chance. "Rubbish. A male lion has that thick mane for protection. Even if this oversized cat has a strong bite, it's useless." She claimed the tiger would only get a mouthful of fur before the lion pinned it to the ground. She looked at the young man with utter disdain as she spoke. "All right, let's not argue," the tour guide interrupted, trying to keep the peace. "Personally, I think the lion has the edge." Naturally, the guide took the popular side. The young man sat back down, frustrated, muttering under his breath that tigers were superior in every possible way. "And who are we to disagree?" The young man muttered that tigers were the most perfect feline evolution, while lions were practically closer to canines. Seeing the guide take her side, the young woman smiled triumphantly. She laughed, calling our protagonist a clumsy tiger and claiming he lacked the majesty of the Lion King next door. She even mockingly wondered if he was just a glorified Pekingese dog. Deep down, our tiger knew he could handle 8 billion lion dogs if he had to. But just as he felt a wave of indignation, a sudden, terrifying sound echoed from the distance. He immediately sensed a horrific killing intent, cruel, violent, and utterly primal. He wondered what kind of creature could emit such a vibe as several vehicles began racing toward them. Some cars were driving so frantically they crashed straight into trees. The tourists on the sightseeing bus watched in a daze, completely unaware of what was unfolding around them. No one knew the cause, but a primal fear of the unknown began to take root in their hearts. Suddenly, a warning came. A male lion from the neighboring enclosure had gone mad. A white sedan sped past the stationary vehicles, the driver shouting that the beast had broken into the tiger park before disappearing. A mad lion? The tourists felt safe inside their cars. The young woman with the mole spoke up again, insisting that lions were noble and wouldn't attack humans. She then turned her mockery back toward the young man. She taunted him, asking if he still thought his Pekingese tiger stood a chance now that the lion had come to its territory. She told him to watch closely as the lion dominated. She directed all her spite toward the young man who had defended the tiger's strength. The youth remained silent, though he was secretly curious about how a lion could even get in. With a bone-chilling roar, a terrifyingly large male lion finally emerged. It was far bigger than any ordinary lion we might expect to see in a safari park. Its golden mane was unusually long and thick, shimmering with an unnatural luster. As our tiger looked into the lion's eyes, he saw something chilling, pure, cold, killing intent. Those eyes were enough to make anyone's blood run cold. Judging by its massive frame, this lion easily weighed 600 pounds, matching our protagonist's own impressive size. Our tiger recognized him. It was the king of the neighboring pride, a lion named Kala. But something about Kala had changed significantly since they last met. Kala's mane seemed to have evolved, looking more like a crown of gold. There was a problem here, a very big problem. Yet, the tourists only saw a majestic sight. The young woman, convinced the lion would crush the mutt tiger, pulled out her phone to snap photos. The young man, however, was focused on the lion's freezing gaze. He urgently told her to stop taking pictures, but she snapped back, asking what his problem was. To her, this was a photo opportunity she couldn't miss. She told him to go photograph his dog while she captured her golden guardian Lion King. She brushed him off with a sneer and continued filming the approaching beast. The young man grew increasingly anxious, silently praying the terrifying lion wouldn't target their bus. Meanwhile, the other tourists were caught up in the excitement. The young woman encouraged everyone to take photos of the domineering Lion King, certain she was about to record a viral video of the tiger being humbled. Our tiger remained perfectly still, waiting for the king, Kala, to make his move. He could feel the lion's gaze locked onto him. But then, something shifted. Just as he prepared for the clash, Kala seemed to be triggered by something else. He abandoned the tiger and lunged straight toward the sightseeing bus instead. In just a few breaths, the lion reached the vehicle and delivered a terrifying blow. The force of his paw shattered the bus windows instantly. Even the heavy protective bars began to buckle under the pressure. The young woman who had been taking photos was now screaming for help, completely terrified. She collapsed into her seat, sobbing as the lion's aggression intensified. The other passengers were paralyzed with fear, watching the metal guardrails dent inward. Fortunately, the bars held for the moment, but Kala was far from finished. Seeing that the barrier hadn't broken, the lion descended into a total frenzy. He began relentlessly battering the massive bus, smashing the remaining glass and warping the iron plating. Inside, dozens of tourists were trembling, unable to move. The driver's legs had gone weak from the shock. Desperate to survive, the young woman pointed toward a black SUV nearby, hoping to divert the beast's attention. Kala's eyes remained cold and cruel as he actually listened. He abandoned the bus and turned his predatory focus toward the smaller off-road vehicle. The young man on the bus sighed, realizing she had just signed someone else's death warrant. It was a cruel move, but he couldn't exactly lure the beast back. Inside the SUV, a family of 5 was trapped. The mother frantically urged them to leave as she saw the massive lion approaching their car. The father was on the verge of tears, his hands shaking so violently that he kept stalling the engine. Each failed start brought them closer to despair. Unlike the bus, their private car had no protective bars. Given Kala's unnatural strength, a single swipe would be enough to crush the door like paper. Kala charged the black SUV and slammed his paw into the rear left door. With a deafening crash, the window exploded and the metal caved in. Then, using his razor-sharp claws like hooks, the lion began to forcibly tear the door off its hinges. We see 3 people huddled in the back seat. A woman in her 30s and 2 small children were now exposed, staring directly into the eyes of the king. The terror in their gaze was absolute. This lion's intelligence was disturbingly high. He knew exactly how to dismantle a car. Our tiger realized he couldn't just stand by and watch them die. With a thunderous roar of his own, he charged toward Kala. He knew he had to save those people, regardless of the risk to himself. Kala was smart, yes, but he was also consumed by a mindless cruelty. Our protagonist moved with lightning speed, a blur of fur and muscle across the grass. An invincible aura erupted from the tiger as he closed the distance, locking his intent onto the lion. Kala, however, was just preparing to start his feast. Hearing the roar behind him, the king was consumed by rage. Kala turned away from the car and lunged toward our tiger. The 2 kings were about to collide. The young woman on the bus was excited again, urging others to take photos of the bearded dog being beaten. Under everyone's tense gaze, our tiger moved. The male tiger and the lion slammed into each other with the force of 2 titans. They rolled across the ground, neither stopping for a second as they fought. In the chaos, our protagonist managed to pierce one of Kala's eyes, though his own neck was clawed in return. Fortunately, the lion's teeth missed their mark. He didn't have time to wonder why Kala's claws were so unnaturally long. He was driven by a pure instinct to survive. This lion was incredibly powerful. Their strength was nearly equal, and he knew that even a moment's distraction could mean death. From the SUV, a little girl began cheering for the tiger. Huddled inside the car that had lost its door, she cried out for him to win. Our tiger felt he couldn't lose to this lion dog, not in front of her. He aimed to end this in 3 rounds, but something felt wrong. Kala's wounds were already healing, and the lion seemed to be growing even stronger. It was as if the beast were cheating. Our tiger shifted his stance, moving like a blur as he lunged again, aiming specifically for Kala's remaining eye. Kala roared in fury, desperate for revenge. He wanted to tear the tiger apart and devour him, sensing that doing so would grant him even greater power. The second clash began, and every onlooker held their breath, too terrified to even whisper. This was a true battle between the kings of the wild. The terrifying Golden Lion King and our Tiger King tore into one another. The sheer brutality of the scene left everyone present in a state of shock. Even the tiger's subordinates began to circle, looking for an opening to strike Kala. In this round, our tiger carved a long gash across the lion's face. He left deep, bloody furrows across the lion's back, though he missed the other eye. Our tiger wasn't unscathed either. His abdomen had been badly torn. Kala was undoubtedly the most formidable lion he had ever faced, far surpassing any wild king of the plains. He was a monster in every sense. Now half-blind, the one-eyed Lion King glared at our protagonist with his remaining eye. With a final, furious roar toward the sky, he turned and fled. Our tiger licked his wounds and chose not to pursue. In that last look from Kala, we see a disturbing mix of malice, resentment, and utter disbelief. This was a high level of intelligence. Our tiger felt a flicker of worry, knowing this lion might return even stronger to seek his revenge one day. He lay still on the ground, waiting for the zoo's medical team to arrive and stitch his wounds. Meanwhile, that same woman began cursing him loudly. She called him a bad baby for attacking the lion's eye. The young man beside her was livid. After all, that lion had been seconds away from eating people. If not for our great tiger, the people in that black SUV would surely be dead, and all because this girl insisted on taking photos and lured the danger toward them. She had practically led the lion to the vehicle, and now she was calling the tiger a bad baby, while recording everything to post online later. To be honest, her priorities were a bit skewed. From inside the SUV, the little girl watched our tiger bleeding and was overcome with worry, asking if he was hurt. Hearing her voice, our protagonist turned his head. He looked toward the child and offered a smile, a genuine, heartfelt expression. "Mom, the big tiger is smiling," the little girl shouted in pure excitement. And here, something remarkable happens. A notification announces he has gained a true fan, activating an invincible chi system. It asks if he wants to claim a newbie gift pack. At first, he wondered if the battle had finally made him lose his mind, but the voice in his head repeated the prompt until he was certain it was real. He was overjoyed. It turns out he wasn't just a tiger, but a tiger with a system. He immediately gave the mental command to claim his newbie gift pack. The system congratulated him, granting a single drop of white tiger essence blood, stored and ready for use. Naturally, he couldn't wait to claim it. He wondered if this blood came from the legendary white tiger of myth. The moment he claimed it, a single drop of blood appeared within his very heart. The aura radiating from it was so overwhelming, he felt an urge to surrender to its power. He sensed that if this drop were released, it could practically destroy the world. The newbie gift pack was terrifyingly potent, but then the system detected that our tiger was currently too weak to digest such a powerful essence. The system promptly withdrew the blood for storage until he grew stronger. As it vanished from his heart, he actually felt a sense of relief. It was simply too much to handle. But he quickly realized his gift was gone. He cursed the system for giving him something he couldn't even use and demanded something practical instead. The system advised him to gather chi for luck draws, noting he currently had one chance at a black iron treasure chest. He was a bit confused about how to earn this chi. The system explained, gaining one true fan grants a black iron draw, as does receiving 100 likes from others. It was a simple enough rule, really. He realized his true fan must be the little girl, Zhou Xiaoming. He made a mental note of her name. After all, she was the one who helped him activate the system. He decided he would find a way to thank her later, but for now, he initiated the draw. The system announced he had won a pound of spirit snacks. The prize was placed into his storage immediately. He decided to try just a small portion first, fearing it might upset his stomach. Suddenly, a small piece of the snack appeared directly inside his belly. It seems the system saves him the trouble of chewing. Almost instantly, he felt a warm current beginning to flow from his stomach through his entire body. The warmth flowed through him, healing his torn wounds and strengthening his bones as they absorbed the energy. However, after only a few seconds, that comforting sensation began to fade. He decided to claim the rest of the snacks, and suddenly his stomach felt heavy, as if he'd swallowed a large stone. But the resulting warm current was 9 times stronger than before. He felt a cozy glow and estimated his strength had increased by at least 1%. Not bad at all, he thought, getting stronger while just lying there. To be honest, it's a dream setup. Only a few minutes had passed since the system activated, yet in that short time, the safari park's rescue vehicles had finally arrived. We see the flashing lights approaching the scene. In truth, the park security had noticed the Lion King Kala's mutation earlier and rushed to the lion enclosure. Little did they know, the beast had become far too powerful to contain. Kala had actually flipped their vehicle before vanishing. After searching frantically, they finally spotted him on the monitors, entering the tiger enclosure, and raced over as fast as they could. "The security is here. The security is here," shouted the terrified drivers. They were trembling, having just experienced a brush with death that was far too close for comfort. "Kill that tiger. He was just about to eat someone," the girl screamed at the guards. She seemed to have forgotten who actually saved her, which, naturally, was quite the lapse in memory. Hearing the tourists shouting about a man-eating tiger, the guards grew incredibly tense. If a tiger truly attacked a guest, the park would be held strictly liable for the tragedy. A man-eating tiger would have to be put down regardless, but such a heavy decision rested with the park leadership. For now, a guard raised his tranquilizer rifle and aimed it at our tiger. "Don't shoot the tiger. He's the one who saved us. He rescued that family from the lion," a young man shouted, trying to stop the guards from making a terrible mistake. The guards felt their heads spinning from the conflicting stories. The girl claimed the tiger was a predator, while the young man insisted he was a hero. It was a confusing situation, to say the least. "Officer, it was the big tiger who saved us. He chased the lion away and kept us safe," 5-year-old Zhou Xiaoming cried out, her voice filled with conviction. "She's right," Xiaoming's father added loudly. "If not for this tiger, my whole family would be dead. You need to find that lion and kill it instead of bothering him." He went on to explain that the tiger was injured and needed immediate medical attention. We see the father gesturing toward the wounds our protagonist sustained during the fight. Our tiger knew a tranquilizer wouldn't really affect him, but to avoid being shot repeatedly, he decided to play along and pretend to faint. It was a clever bit of acting, really. As for the girl who wanted him dead, he made a mental note of her face. He considered himself a reasonable tiger, but he wouldn't forget someone who tried to end his life. 2 medical staff members arrived, and when they saw the sheer size of our tiger, they nearly jumped out of their skins. They had never seen a specimen quite this imposing. "It's all right, we've already tranquilized him. He won't move," the security captain, Lu Ming, said with absolute confidence. He was quite sure the situation was under control. The 2 doctors forced themselves to approach, their legs shaking visibly. The tiger was massive, nearly 3 meters long from head to tail, and even asleep, he was a terrifying sight. Including the tail, he measured a full 4 meters long, and even in his deep slumber, no one could help but feel a primal sense of dread. As the saying goes, no one messes with the one wearing the tattoos. After suddenly passing out in an internet cafe, he had been reborn as a national treasure, a tiger. Being a tiger wasn't bad at all. No studying, no exams, and certainly no job to worry about. He had truly embraced the life of lying flat. In 2 years, he had grown to 600 pounds, becoming the king of the safari park with over 30 subordinates under his command. The only drawback was a short lifespan. If he could live to 100, he'd happily lie flat for a century. Living a life where food was simply delivered to his mouth was, to be honest, incredibly comfortable. To prevent himself from becoming truly obese, he made sure to exercise regularly. Suddenly, a child's voice drifted from a distance, exclaiming about how massive the big tiger was. We see him tilt his massive head toward the sound, wondering if they were talking about him. A black off-road vehicle was approaching. Its window rolled down just enough to reveal a small head. It was indeed a little girl, about 5 years old, peering out at the world. She had her hair tied in 2 adorable pigtails, her face full of youthful energy and innocence. She was quite charming, really, so our tiger decided to make a funny face at her. "Mom, the big tiger is so cute," the little girl shouted with pure excitement. Hearing this, 2 of his subordinates moved forward, seemingly curious about the vehicle. Our protagonist let out a low growl, signaling his subordinates to stay back and not cause trouble. The vehicle drew closer, finally stopping about 20 meters away. "Big tiger, big tiger," the girl continued to shout, her eyes wide with wonder at the sight of him. He gave a subtle, tiger-like smile and stood up from the ground, stretching his limbs lazily. It wasn't just the girl. Everyone in the car was buzzing with excitement at his sheer size. A sightseeing bus pulled up shortly after, filled with over 20 tourists who were all equally thrilled to see such a magnificent creature. They were all watching him with intense fascination. "Look at this big guy. He could easily take down the lion next door," one man remarked. "Nonsense. How could a tiger be a match for a lion?" a young woman with a mole near her countered. The young man wasn't about to back down. He pointed out the tiger's thick limbs, arguing that a tiger's bone density and bite force far exceeded that of any lion. He insisted a lion stood no chance, but the woman just scoffed. She argued that a male lion's mane would protect its neck, leaving the mustached dog, as she called the tiger, with nothing but a mouthful of hair. She claimed a lion would have this mustached dog pinned to the ground in seconds. It was a classic debate, though her choice of nicknames was, to be perfectly honest, a bit disrespectful. The young woman looked at the man with pure disdain. "All right, everyone, let's not argue," the tour guide interrupted, trying to keep the peace. "Personally, I think the lion is stronger." The guide quickly smoothed things over as the young man sat back down, grumbling under his breath. He was convinced that in no world was a lion superior to a tiger. He muttered that lions were practically canines in comparison, while the tiger was the most perfectly evolved feline on the planet. The young woman, however, remained entirely unimpressed. Seeing the guide take her side, the young woman smirked triumphantly, mocking the clumsy tiger and claiming it couldn't compare to the majestic Lion King next door. Our protagonist was offended. After all, he was the king here, and in his mind, he could take down 80 lions if he had to. But then, something shifted. He suddenly sensed something abnormal, a terrifying sound echoing from not far away, accompanied by a wave of pure, violent, and bloodthirsty killing intent. He wondered what kind of creature could emit such malice. Nearby, vehicles began racing away in a panic, with one even crashing directly into a tree. The tourists on the sightseeing bus looked on blankly, gripped by a sudden, frantic unease as they faced the primal fear of the unknown. A white car sped past, the driver shouting a frantic warning that a male lion from the neighboring enclosure had gone mad and broken into the tiger park. The young woman with the mole, however, remained unfazed, foolishly claiming that lions were righteous and wouldn't bite people as long as they stayed in the car. She turned to the young man, taunting him to watch closely as her heroic lion prepared to give the mustached dog a proper thrashing. She was quite insistent, really, but our tiger noticed something far more sinister about the approaching beast. The atmosphere grew heavy as the intruder finally came into view. In the eyes of this male lion, he saw a terrifying, cold-blooded desire to kill that would make anyone's blood run cold. And then there was its size. This lion was no smaller than our protagonist, likely weighing a full 600 pounds. He recognized him as the king of the lion park, a male named Kara. But Kara's mane had changed, looking as though it had undergone some strange evolution. Something was wrong, very wrong indeed. Ignoring the danger, the young woman marveled at the lion's power, pulling out her phone to snap photos of the beast she was sure would dominate the tigers. The young man, however, saw the coldness in the lion's eyes and urgently told her to stop. She snapped back, asking what his problem was. She told him to go take pictures of his mustached dog while she documented her golden Lion King. To be honest, her obsession was blinding her to the threat. She continued snapping photos while the young man grew increasingly anxious, silently praying the terrifying creature wouldn't notice their bus. She even encouraged the other tourists to take photos, boasting about how the lion's upcoming victory would make for a viral video. Our protagonist remained still, waiting for Kara to strike. He could feel the lion's gaze locked onto him, measuring him up for a fight. But just as he braced for the attack, Kara seemed to be triggered by something else and lunged straight toward the tourist bus instead. In just a few breaths, the Lion King, Kara, sprinted to the side of the sightseeing bus and slammed a terrifying paw down upon it. The glass shattered instantly, and even the protective steel bars were dented inward by the sheer force of the blow as screams for help erupted. The young woman who had been so busy taking photos was now reduced to tears, collapsing into her seat and wailing in pure terror. It was a horrifying sight to see those heavy guardrails buckle. Had they snapped, the danger would have been absolute. Kara, seeing the bars hold, descended into a total frenzy, battering the massive bus until every window was gone and the iron plating itself began to cave in. Dozens of passengers sat trembling, paralyzed by fear, while the driver's legs turned to jelly, making any hope of a quick escape impossible. Trembling, the young woman pointed toward a black SUV nearby. Kara's eyes remained cold and cruel as he decided to abandon the bus. He turned his predatory gaze toward the smaller vehicle, and our protagonist could only sigh at the sight of the trouble shifting elsewhere. The people in that SUV were now in mortal peril, and inside, a mother was frantically urging her family to flee as the beast approached. The father was on the verge of tears, his hands shaking so violently that he struggled to start the engine, only for it to stall again and again. Despair began to set in. Unlike the bus, their private car had no protective cage to withstand a blow that could flatten a door in seconds. Kara lunged at the black SUV, his paw striking the rear left door with a deafening crash that sent glass spraying everywhere. The door crumpled, and then, using his razor-sharp claws like hooks, Kara began to forcibly tear the metal right off the frame. We see the 3 passengers in the back, 2 children and a woman in her 30s, now sitting completely exposed to the Lion King. Their eyes were filled with a primal dread. This lion was unervingly intelligent, knowing exactly how to use his claws to peel back the steel. Our protagonist realized he could no longer just watch, or that family would be lost. With a thunderous roar, he charged toward Kara. Kara might have been smart, but he was far too bloodthirsty to distinguish between prey and a true threat. Our tiger moved like a bolt of lightning. As the old saying goes, the wind follows the tiger. An invincible aura erupted from him, locking onto the Lion King with predatory intent. Kara, who was just preparing for a feast, heard the roar behind him and turned in a rage. The king of lions and the king of tigers were about to collide. Seeing the movement, the young woman grew excited again, filming with her phone and waiting for the lion to thrash the mustached dog as the crowd watched. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, our tiger and the lion collided with a thunderous impact, 2 massive beasts crashing together and rolling across the ground. Without a moment's pause, they attacked again with primal ferocity. Our protagonist managed to pierce the crazed Kara's eye, though his own neck was clawed in the struggle. Fortunately, the bite missed its mark. He didn't stop to wonder why Kara's claws were so unnaturally long. At this moment, he was driven only by the urge to kill. The lion's combat power was immense, a perfect match for his own. One lapse in concentration, and he would likely end up dead beneath the king of lions' massive jaws. "Go, big tiger," a little girl inside the doorless SUV screamed, cheering him on. He knew he couldn't afford to lose to this overgrown lion dog now. He aimed to end the fight and kill Kara within 3 rounds, but he sensed something wrong. The lion's wounds were healing, and he was actually growing stronger. It was as if the beast were cheating. Moving with the sudden speed of a startled rabbit, our tiger lunged at Kara again, targeting the lion's remaining eye. Kara let out a furious roar, desperate for revenge. He wanted to tear this tiger apart and devour him, sensing that doing so would grant him even greater power. As the second exchange began, everyone's hearts were in their throats, and no one dared to breathe. This was a battle of kings, pure and simple. The terrifying Golden Lion King and our Tiger King fought with a brutality that left every witness paralyzed with shock at the sheer carnage unfolding. Even our tiger's subordinates began to close in, looking for a chance to strike Kara. In this second round, our protagonist slashed a long gash across Kara's face. He left deep, bloody furrows across the lion's back, yet he failed to take the other eye. His own condition was worsening, to be perfectly honest. His abdomen had been torn open. Kara was undoubtedly the most formidable lion king he had ever faced, far surpassing any wild king of the great savannas. Now a one-eyed king, Kara fixed his remaining terrifying eye on our protagonist, let out a final, enraged roar toward the sky, and suddenly fled the scene. Our tiger licked his wounds and chose not to pursue. In that last look from Kara's remaining eye, he had seen a chilling mix of malice, resentment, and shock. It was the look of a high intelligence. This worried him. He feared the lion would return even stronger to seek his revenge one day. He lay on the ground, motionless, knowing all he could do now was wait for the zoo's medical team to arrive and stitch his wounds. "That mustache dog is so cheap, attacking the lion's eyes," the young woman cursed angrily, though a young man nearby looked at her with pure indignation. The lion was literally trying to eat people. Without the tiger, the family in that black SUV would be dead, and all because her photography had lured the beast there. Despite her role in the chaos, she continued to record, calling the tiger underhanded. It seems some people are simply incapable of gratitude. She planned to post the video online immediately to slander him. Meanwhile, the little girl in the black SUV watched our tiger bleeding, her heart breaking with worry. Hearing her voice, he tilted his head toward the girl and offered a smile, a genuine, heartfelt smile from a beast. "The big tiger is smiling." The little girl shouted with excitement. "Mom, the big tiger smiled at me." And here, a notification chimed. He had gained a true fan, activating a mysterious system. A prompt asked if he wanted to claim a beginner's gift. For a moment, he wondered if the blood loss was making him hallucinate voices in his head. After the voice repeated itself, he finally confirmed the reality. He was overjoyed. He wasn't just a tiger anymore. He was a tiger with a cheat code. The system congratulated him on claiming the gift, a single drop of white tiger essence blood, stored and ready. He didn't hesitate to claim it immediately. He wondered if this blood came from the legendary white tiger of myth. The moment he claimed it, a change began to stir deep within him. A single drop of vibrant blood appeared at his heart, radiating an aura so powerful it made him want to surrender to its sheer majesty. He felt that if this drop were released, it could practically destroy the world. Such is the terrifying nature of a system's beginner gift, it seems. However, the system detected he was too weak to digest it. It promptly withdrew the blood for storage until he grew stronger, much to his surprise. As the pressure left his heart, he felt a wave of relief, followed quickly by annoyance. The system was giving him things he couldn't even use yet. He demanded something practical, and the system explained he needed aura for draws. Currently, he had one chance at a black iron treasure chest. Confused about how to earn this aura, he listened as the system explained. Gaining a true fan or reaching milestones would grant him more draws. He realized his first true fan was that little girl, Zhou Xiaoming. He made a mental note of her name, feeling a strange sense of gratitude. It was this child who helped him activate his power, and he vowed to thank her later. He initiated the draw and won a pound of special snacks. The reward was immediately placed into storage. He decided to try just a small portion first, fearing it might upset his stomach, and suddenly, a small morsel appeared directly in his gut. It felt like a small stone appearing in his stomach. Convenient, really, as it saved him the trouble of chewing. Soon, a warm current began to spread. The warmth flowed through his body, stitching his torn wounds back together and strengthening his bones. But after only a few seconds, the sensation faded. The warm current vanished all too quickly. He decided to claim the rest of the snacks, and a much larger weight appeared in his stomach. A bit bloating, to be honest. This sensation was 9 times stronger than before. He felt a cozy heat spreading, sensing his strength increase by at least 1%. Not bad for just lying there, really. Only a few minutes had passed since the system activated, but in that short time, the safari park's rescue vehicle had finally arrived on the scene. We learned that the park's security had noticed the mutation of the Lion King, Kala, earlier and rushed to the lion enclosure, though they were woefully unprepared. They hadn't expected Kala to be so ferocious. The lion had actually overturned their vehicle before vanishing. After searching the monitors, they tracked him here to the tiger enclosure. As they arrived, the terrified tourists, who had been holding their breath in fear, began to shout with relief. Help had finally come. For many, this was the closest they had ever been to death. Security. Kill that tiger, the woman from before screamed, pointing a trembling finger at our protagonist. He was trying to eat people, she lied. Hearing the frantic cries of a tiger eating people, the guards immediately grew tense, their hands tightening on their weapons. If a tiger truly turned man-eater, the park would be held responsible, and the animal would have to be put down, though that final decision rested with the higher-ups. The guards raised their tranquilizer rifles, aiming directly at him. Don't shoot, a young man shouted. That tiger saved us. He fought off the lion. The young man urged them to ask the family in the SUV if they didn't believe him. The guards felt their heads spinning, one person claiming man-eater, another claiming hero. It was quite the confusing situation. Mister, the big tiger saved us, little Zhou Xiaoming cried out. He chased the mean lion away. Her father joined in, telling the guards that without this tiger, their whole family would be dead. He urged them to find the lion instead. He also pointed out that the tiger was badly injured and needed immediate medical attention. He spoke quickly, recounting the incredible events they had just witnessed. Our tiger knew a tranquilizer wouldn't do much to him now, but to avoid being a target, he decided to play along and fake the collapse. A wise move, surely. As he closed his eyes, he made a mental note of the woman who wanted him dead. He was usually easygoing, but he didn't take kindly to those seeking his life. 2 park veterinarians arrived and nearly jumped out of their skins when they saw his massive size. It's okay, we've tranquilized him, the security captain, Lu Ming, assured them. Captain Lu spoke with great confidence, though he was likely just as nervous. Fine, one doctor whispered. I'll begin the treatment now. The 2 doctors approached with trembling legs. Up close, the tiger was terrifying, 3 meters from head to rump, an absolute unit of a predator. With the tail included, he was a full 4 meters long. Even asleep, he commanded a fear that reminded everyone of his previous life as a man who died in an internet cafe. After dying, he was reborn as a national treasure tiger. Being a tiger was actually quite nice. No studying, no exams, and no work to worry about. It seemed he had truly mastered the art of lying flat. In 2 years, he had grown to 600 pounds, becoming the king of the safari park. He even had over 30 subordinates. The only downside was the short lifespan. If he could live to 100, he'd happily spend a century being fed. That life was simply too comfortable. To prevent obesity, he exercised regularly. Suddenly, a child's voice cried out, "Mom, look at that huge tiger." The voice came from a distance. Wondering if she meant him, he tilted his massive head toward the sound. A black SUV was approaching. The window was halfway down, revealing a small head. It was indeed a little girl, about 5 years old, with her hair in 2 adorable pigtails. She was full of youthful energy and quite cute. Our tiger decided to make a funny face at her. "Mom, the big tiger is so cute," she shouted. Hearing this, his 2 subordinates moved, seemingly interested in the SUV. He let out a low growl, telling his followers not to move a muscle. The SUV drew closer, finally stopping about 20 meters away. Big tiger, the little girl cheered with pure excitement. He gave a slight smile, stood up from the ground, and stretched his limbs. "This tiger is massive," others in the car remarked, sharing her awe. Everyone on board was thrilled to see him. Just then, a sightseeing bus pulled up, filled with over 20 tourists who were equally excited. They watched him with wide eyes, marveling at the sheer presence of the beast before them. "Look at this big guy. He could easily take down the lion next door," a man said. "Nonsense. A tiger is no match for a lion," a young woman countered. The young man wouldn't back down. "Look at those thick limbs. A tiger's bone density and bite force both exceed a lion's. It's not even a contest." "Rubbish," she snapped. "A male lion's neck is covered in mane. This bearded dog, even with a strong bite, would just end up with a mouthful of hair. A lion would pin this bearded dog to the ground in seconds," the young woman said dismissively. To be honest, her choice of words was a bit harsh. The tour guide quickly intervened. "All right, let's not argue. As for which is stronger, I personally believe the lion has the upper hand." The young man sat down, defeated but still muttering under his breath that there was no way a lion was stronger than a tiger. In his mind, lions were closer to canines, while tigers were the most perfectly evolved felines. The young woman, seeing the guide agree, smiled triumphantly. "Look at this stupid tiger," she sneered. "He's nothing compared to the Lion King." Our protagonist was offended. She had actually called him a bearded dog. A bearded dog? He was the Tiger King, and he felt he could handle those so-called dogs with one paw. But just as he was fuming, he sensed something. An incredibly terrifying sound echoed from not far away. Suddenly, we feel a wave of horrific killing intent, brutal, violent, and completely unrestrained. What kind of creature could this be? Many vehicles began racing toward them, and one even crashed into a tree. The tourists on the bus were left utterly bewildered. Everyone watched in confusion, not knowing what was happening, yet feeling a deep, instinctive panic. It was the primal fear of an unknown predator. A white car sped past the lingering vehicles, the driver shouting that a male lion from the neighboring enclosure had gone mad and broken into the tiger park. The young woman who had insulted our protagonist earlier scoffed, claiming there was no need to fear a righteous lion while they were safe inside their vehicles. She taunted the young man, telling him to watch closely as the lion entered the tiger park to prove once and for all that tigers were no match for them. She wanted him to see exactly how the lion would dominate the bearded dog. This young woman, who had a small mole near the corner of her eye, seemed quite convinced of her own expertise. However, our tiger saw something different in the lion's eyes, a terrifying, murderous intent and a coldness that made his fur stand on end. Furthermore, the lion's weight was easily 600 pounds, matching his own. He recognized this beast. It was the king of the neighboring lion enclosure, who had the rather nice name of Kala. But Kala's mane had changed, looking as though it had evolved. Something was wrong here, very wrong indeed. The young woman with the mole couldn't help herself. She pulled out her phone to take photos of the majestic Lion King, certain he would win. The young man, however, saw the coldness in Kala's eyes and urgently told her to stop taking pictures. He sensed the danger, but she wasn't listening. She snapped at him, telling him to mind his own business and go take pictures of his bearded dog while she admired her golden Lion King. After scolding the young man, she continued snapping photos. He could only hope this terrifying beast wouldn't decide to target their sightseeing bus. She even encouraged the other passengers to take photos, boasting that the lion's dominance over the tigers would surely go viral if recorded. Our protagonist remained still, waiting for Kala to attack him. He knew the Lion King had already locked his gaze onto his massive frame. But just as he braced for the strike, Kala seemed to be triggered by something else. He abandoned the tiger and lunged straight for the sightseeing bus instead. In a few blurred breaths, Kala reached the vehicle and slammed a massive, terrifying paw against the side. To be honest, that was the last thing they expected. The glass shattered instantly, and even the protective bars were crushed inward. "Help! Someone help!" The girl who had been taking photos screamed. Terrified by the Lion King Kala's brutal assault, she collapsed into her seat, wailing. The other passengers were equally stunned by the lion's sheer ferocity. It was terrifying to see the metal bars buckle like that. Fortunately, they didn't snap, or the situation would have turned far more tragic. Seeing his path blocked, Kala flew into a total rage. He began relentlessly battering the massive sightseeing bus, smashing every window and denting the heavy iron plating. Dozens of passengers huddled inside, trembling and too afraid to move, while the driver's legs went weak with fear. "Go, find someone else," the girl stammered, pointing desperately toward a black SUV nearby. With eyes full of cold cruelty, Kala actually listened. He abandoned the bus and turned his gaze toward the smaller vehicle. Our protagonist sighed with a heavy heart. This was a classic case of shifting the disaster onto someone else, and the people in that black SUV were now in grave danger. There was no way for the girl to draw the lion back to herself, even if she wanted to. Inside the SUV, a family of 5 was trapped. The mother urged them to hurry, crying out that the lion was coming. The father was so panicked he was nearly in tears, his hands shaking as he tried to start the engine, but it stalled again and again. Despair began to set in. Unlike the sightseeing bus, their private car had no protective bars. With Kala's strength, a single blow could flatten a car door. Kala charged the black SUV and slammed a massive paw into the rear left door. With a deafening crash, the window exploded into fragments. The door crumpled instantly. Then, using his razor-sharp claws like hooks, Kala began to forcibly tear the door right off its hinges. We see into the back seat, where 3 people are sitting, 2 small children and a woman in her 30s. They are now face to face with the Lion King, and we can see the absolute terror in their eyes. The fear in her eyes was justified. This lion was terrifyingly intelligent, using its claws to pry open the car door. He realized he couldn't just be a spectator anymore, or the little girl and the others wouldn't stand a chance. If he doesn't act, the mother and her children are doomed. With a thunderous roar, he charges toward Kala, determined to save those people at any cost. Kala may be smart, but he is consumed by bloodlust and cannot distinguish between friend and foe. Our protagonist moves with incredible speed, lightning fast, one might say. As the old saying goes, the wind follows the tiger. An invincible aura erupts from him, locking onto the Lion King with overwhelming pressure. Kala, who was just preparing for a feast, hears the roar behind him and is instantly enraged. He turns away from the car and lunges toward our tiger. The king of lions and the king of tigers are about to collide. "Quick, take a photo. The lion is going to crush that dog," the girl shouts, excitedly recording again. Under the frantic gaze of the crowd, these 2 massive predators slam into each other with terrifying force, tumbling across the ground in a blur of fur and fury. Without a moment's pause, they launch into another fierce assault. Our tiger manages to pierce Kala's eye, but in the struggle, his own neck is slashed by the lion's claws. Fortunately, the bite missed his throat. He doesn't have time to wonder why Kala's claws are unnaturally long. Right now, he is driven by a pure, primal instinct to survive. The opponent's combat power is immense, perfectly matching his own. He knows that a single moment of distraction could mean ending up inside the Lion King's massive jaws. From inside the SUV, which is now missing a door, the little girl screams for the tiger to keep going. He tells himself he cannot lose to this overgrown poodle. He aims to end this fight and kill Kala within 3 rounds. However, he notices something unsettling. Kala's wounds are already healing, and he seems to be growing stronger. It is as if the lion is using some kind of cheat code. Moving like a bolt of lightning, our tiger pounces again, his sights set firmly on Kala's remaining eye. Kala roars in a blind fury, desperate for revenge. He wants to tear this tiger apart and devour him, sensing that eating such a foe would grant him even greater power. The second clash begins, and we can see the onlookers holding their breath in absolute silence. This is no longer a simple skirmish. It is a battle for supremacy. The sight of the Golden Lion King and the Tiger King locked in a death struggle is truly terrifying. The sheer brutality of the scene leaves everyone present paralyzed with awe. Even the tiger's subordinates begin to close in, looking for an opening to strike. In this second round, our tiger manages to open a long, jagged gash across Kala's face. He leaves deep, bloody furrows across the lion's back, yet he fails to take the other eye. His own condition is worsening, and the toll of the battle is starting to show. His abdomen has been torn open. To be honest, Kala is likely the most powerful lion in existence, far surpassing any wild king found on the great savannas. Now a one-eyed king, Kala glares at our protagonist with his remaining terrifying eye. He lets out one final, thunderous roar toward the sky before turning to flee. Our tiger licks his wounds and chooses not to pursue. In that last look from Kala, he saw a chilling mixture of malice, resentment, and utter disbelief. This was the look of a sentient being. Kala's intelligence is dangerously high, and our tiger worries that the lion will return even stronger to seek his revenge. He lies on the ground, motionless, waiting for the zoo's medical team to arrive and stitch his wounds. It was a narrow victory, to say the least. Meanwhile, the girl who started this mess calls the tiger a dirty coward for attacking the lion's eyes. A young man nearby hears this and is absolutely livid. He reminds her that the lion was about to eat people. If not for the tiger, the family in the SUV would be dead, all because she lured the lion there for a photo. Despite the danger she caused, she continues to record, planning to post the video online and frame the tiger as the villain. Some people, it seems, never learn. Inside the black SUV, the little girl watches our tiger bleed and is overcome with worry. She softly asks if the big tiger is going to be okay. Hearing her voice, our tiger tilts his head toward the little girl and offers a smile, a genuine, heartfelt smile that surprises even him. The little girl shouts excitedly to her mother that the tiger smiled. Suddenly, a notification rings out. He has gained a true fan, activating a system. The voice asks if he wants to claim a newbie gift pack. At first, he wonders if the battle caused him to lose his mind and start hearing things. After the voice repeats itself, he finally confirms the reality. He is delighted to realize he is now a tiger with his very own system. He claims the gift pack immediately, and the system rewards him with a single drop of white tiger essence blood, stored for whenever he is ready. He wonders if this blood comes from the legendary white tiger of myth. The moment he claims it, a drop of blood appears near his heart. The aura irradiating from it is so overwhelming that he feels an instinctive urge to submit. He senses that this single drop could destroy the world. It is a terrifyingly powerful gift, but the system quickly detects that he is currently too weak to digest such a potent substance. The system retracts the essence blood for safekeeping until he grows stronger. As it vanishes from his heart, he feels a sense of relief. However, he quickly realizes his newbie gift is gone. He grumbles internally at the system for giving him something he can't even use yet. He demands something practical, and the system explains he needs luck for draws. Currently, he has one chance at a black iron treasure chest. Confused about how to gain luck, he learns that gaining a true fan or reaching certain milestones will grant him more chances to draw. He realizes his first true fan is the little girl, Zhou Xiaoming. He makes a mental note of her name, feeling grateful for her help. She is the one who activated his system, and he vows to thank her later. He starts the draw and wins a pound of spirit snacks. The reward is processed and moved into his system store. Everything is kept safe until he is ready to consume it. He decides to try just a small portion first, fearing it might upset his stomach. Suddenly, a small, stone-like object appears directly in his gut. It's quite convenient, really, as it saves him the trouble of chewing. Soon, a warm current begins to flow from his stomach through his entire body. His torn wounds begin to knit back together, and his bones absorb the warmth, growing stronger. But after just a few seconds, the feeling fades. Eager for more, he claims the rest of the snacks. A much larger stone appears in his stomach, feeling heavy but radiating 9 times the power. Our tiger feels a pleasant warmth spreading through him, sensing his strength has increased by at least 1%. Not bad for just lying around. Only a few minutes have passed since the system activated and he claimed his snacks, but in that time, the zoo's rescue vehicle has arrived. Actually, the moment the Lion King, Kala, began his mutation, the zoo security noticed and rushed to the lion enclosure, though they were unprepared. That fierce lion was so powerful he actually overturned their vehicle before vanishing. After searching the monitors, they tracked him to the tiger enclosure. As they arrive, several terrified tourists shout with relief that security is finally here, having felt they were moments away from a grisly death. One woman, still trembling, screams at the guards to kill our tiger, claiming he was just about to eat everyone in sight. Hearing the frantic cries that a tiger is eating people, the guards grow incredibly tense. After all, a man-eater is a liability they can't ignore. If a tiger truly tastes human blood, it usually has to be put down, though such a heavy decision ultimately rests with the zoo's leadership. A guard raises his tranquilizer rifle and aims directly at our tiger, but a young man shouts for them to stop, explaining the tiger actually saved them. The guard feels his head spinning. One woman is screaming about a man-eater, while a man insists the tiger is a hero. It's quite the contradiction. Little 5-year-old Zhou Xiaoming chimes in, calling out to the uncles that the big tiger saved them by chasing the scary lion away. Her father agrees, telling the guards that without this tiger, their whole family would be dead, and urges them to find the lion instead. He goes on to explain the situation loudly, insisting that the tiger is injured and needs immediate medical attention rather than a bullet. Our tiger knows a mere tranquilizer wouldn't do much to him now, but to avoid further trouble, he decides to simply pretend to pass out. He makes a mental note of the woman who wanted him dead, hoping she doesn't meet her end too quickly. He's usually easygoing, but he has limits. 2 zoo paramedics arrive and jump back in shock when they see the massive predator lying before them, looking rather formidable even while asleep. The security captain, Lu Ming, confidently assures them that the beast has been tranquilized and won't move a muscle, so they can proceed safely. The 2 doctors steel themselves and approach our tiger, though their legs are visibly shaking with every step they take toward him.